Hi, everybody. Welcome along to episode 140 of Percussion Discussion. As usual, I'm going to ask you to please check out our social media. Give us a follow, a like, whatever you do to social media. I don't know. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and of course, our world famous YouTube channel, where you can find all of our conversations, past and present. Here, you will find the video to accompany them if that's your thing. You won't find any adverts to get in the way. I don't have any advertising on there. So you can watch comfortably without being interrupted. Please subscribe to us because it still helps build the channel. So if you could do that, appreciate it. If you'd rather listen on the go, all of our conversations are available in podcast form. Also, these are free to download from your favorite podcast providers. If you could rate and review, it would really help. Now, I've asked for 140 episodes now, and I think it's happened about 5 times. So if you like us, come on, help us out a little bit. It's not a lot to ask. And I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. On to today's guest, a great drummer from down the south of England. He's had an amazing career as a drummer, a touring drummer. He's played with the likes of Noel Redding from the Jimi Hendrix band, Tim Booth, James, of course. He's currently out on tour with, now I'd call them progressive, some people may argue, an instrumental band and a great band, been around a long, long time, the Ozric Tentacles. This aside, he has an amazing side career as an educator, as a teacher. He's head of drums for BIMM in Brighton. He's written hundreds of articles for drum magazines, worldwide, but the ones I miss most are, of course, the dearly missed Rhythm magazine, where he was a regular contributor. He's a great drummer. He's a great guy. It gives me great pleasure to welcome the wonderfully talented Mr. Pat Garvey. Pat, thanks so much for doing this, mate.
You are more than welcome. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, mate, it's honestly, it's a pleasure to have you here. And we've had a few goes with, but with family stuff and work stuff, we've failed a couple of times at both ends. But it's always nice when eventually it ties in on one of the hottest days of the year, and we're sat inside with lights and. But it's all good. It's all good.
Lights and drums.
Well, it's not a bad combo, actually, is it really? So, what are you up to at the moment? You keeping busy?
I am, yeah. It's busy with a few different things, really. Busy with a band called Ozric Tentacles. So it's festival season, and there's been a couple of tours in the last kind of 8-9 months, and there's a couple more to come this year. I'm busy with the Brighton Drum School, and busy with a creative arts hub that Ben Thomas and I have opened up over the last couple of years, and I teach at a local university as well, but that's kind of a little bit easier at the moment because it's summer and
sure,
nothing's going on that front. So, yeah.
Wow, that's so your days are pretty full, pretty much constantly then, one way or the other.
Yeah, one way or another they are. I suppose it's and I mean, I've left my family out of that, which is what I try and give the most time to,
sure.
Overall, as you know. But it's one of those things. I think when you've worked as a freelancer, and I don't work exclusively as a freelancer anymore, but when you've worked as a freelancer for X amount of time, the only thing you want to see is a busy diary. That's it. And so that's kind of carried on through. So yeah, I mean, whilst it sounds like I'm doing a lot, I've managed to kind of get it to the place where it's not like 9 till 9, 7 days a week, 365 days a year anymore.
Yeah,
but yeah, obviously, man. So it's been busy.
Yeah, you've got to keep some time for yourself. And I know it's hard to say no to things, isn't it? Sometimes, because I'm always one of these. If I say no, will they ask again? And that's always in the back of my mind. And I don't know if it's the same for everyone else, but that's the first thing I think of.
Man, I think you know what I think it is, or at least anyone that's managed to do anything. I think it's that you just say yes, don't you? Especially at the beginning, the words you say yes comes out of your mouth, and you're looking at it departing and going, oh no, did I say that with my external voice? I meant no. But you have to learn. You have to learn to say no. You have to be in a position to say no. I think sometimes with work or with family or with balance, with all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, saying no is something that I really didn't learn to do until, I suppose, in the general scheme of things, quite recently, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of a mature thing as well, isn't it? I don't mean you mature as a musician. You know what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and I don't mean to sound mercenary, but you know how much you want. You know what you're worth as well,
That's
and that's a
right.
big
Yeah.
part, isn't it? You don't want to be going selling yourself cheaply as well.
No, no, and especially not now when there's a lot of there's a lot of people out there trying to get the work or get the gigs or get the this or get the that. Fees have gone down for lots of things, especially with some aspects of live work and things like that. So no, you have got to know your worth, but you've also got, I think, you've got to build your worth. Loads of the guys you've had on, I've seen them talking about it or implying it. We were just chatting about Vinny. None of this stuff just kind of happens. People don't just have a value from day one. It's one of those things, isn't it? You only really kind of have a value once other people start to recognize that value.
Exactly. Yeah. The more names you have on the CV, then you're more valuable. It's as simple as that, isn't it? Well, he's had him, or she's had him, or they've had him. So,
Yeah.
we need to, and that's.
Yeah, it really is. And you only really are what you can put in as much work as you like, but you only really are what other people say you are as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that kind of context.
This is where social media kind of gets in. I sound like an old fart, but social media kind of gets in the way a bit. People putting videos they might be the best drummers on earth, but have never played in a band situation, never had to deal with other human beings who can get grumpy and drunk and late, and you know what I mean? It's so it's not just judged on that, is it, on social media?
No, I mean it's really not, and it's still not, and you see a lot of it. I mean, you really do see a lot of it, but it's quite scary actually, because on one hand there's a message that's I suppose pumped out to people, especially young kids getting into the industry or getting into playing or whatever it is they want to do, that you have to do this and you have to do that, and there is this and there is this. And when you then look at some of these I suppose influencers or whatever, and I'm not taking anything away from anyone, it's totally cool, do your thing,
100%.
But if someone's telling me something, I want to know where that's come from. If they're talking about getting a gig, I want to see the gigs they've got. If they're talking about a tour, what tour? If they're talking about flow and concepts, and it's like, well, all I want to do is hear you as a player or as an artist, or what is it? Where can you find that? What can you see? And there's a lot of it out there. I think social media, it should be treated with care.
Yeah, because let's be honest, anybody can put anything out, and that's perhaps the way it should be. I don't know, but just should be treated with caution, I think, a little bit. Yeah,
they really can. I mean, and that's fine and cool. But the thing is, I think maybe it's people understanding better how to use social media, how to interpret social media, how to, the thing with it is it gets right in your head, doesn't it? You sit on a bus, you sit on a train, you sit in a car, you sit on a bench, you sit in a pub, whatever. People are kind of dialed in, and it's right there in your head. And someone's in a funky drum room, or someone's on a Caribbean island playing at some kind of big festival, and it's like, wow, what an amazing life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not the case.
No. So you're a huge part of your job, your career is education. Which you've mentioned. Some of the places that you teach at and that you run. And is this part of what you talk about with your students? Would you say, do you advise them on maybe how the best way to get a gig? Because it's not exclusively all about the playing sometimes, is it?
No, it's not. Yes, so a big part of what I do is guidance, mentoring, and you can't do it if you haven't done it.
Yeah.
It's helping people it's helping students when they get a leg up and they do land that audition, or it's helping students when they go for a rehearsal with an artist and everything's going up to the next level, and suddenly there's a brass section in their ears. What do I do? it's helping people when they are struggling with management or an artist, or they lose the gig. It's not just getting a gig. Getting a gig's arguably easier than keeping a gig sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's touring and it's gear and it's all of these things. So it's not just learning how to kind of play the drums or play different things. A big part of it is the creative aspect, the artistry. At the end of the day, anyone can play the drums or play an instrument or whatever. Getting to that point or using it as something that you never want to. I have students that never want to go and play even a gig, but they use it because it really satisfies part of their curiosity or something they've always wanted to do but they've never been able to do. So yeah, there's many different facets to it, actually.
That's always fascinated me. I mean, great. The more people playing drums, the better in my book. And I'm sure that every drummer will say that. But when somebody works hard to learn to play and has no intention of playing a gig, I've never understood that. And maybe that's my problem rather than anybody else's. But it's like you put all that graft in and nobody's going to see it, apart from maybe you and whoever's teaching him. It seems a shame, but there you go. If that's what they're getting, that's all they want out of it. Great.
Yeah, it's a different thing. It's a whole different approach. And I think one of the problems that I find, and I speak to people about this all over the place, if I'm doing a clinic somewhere, if I'm doing a talk somewhere, or if I see them at the university or whatever, I'm doing something online with someone from another country, there's a perception. Social media doesn't help this, actually, in some areas, that if you're going to play an instrument, you have to, you want to be pro, or you want to be talking about all the gigs you're doing, or you want to be talking about this, or you want to be talking about that. And my response is always, well, why? You don't have to. You can enjoy an instrument on a desert island on your own for the next 80 years, and you're going to absolutely love it. Just don't stress about it.
Yeah,
but yeah, like to me, to begin with, it was really weird. I was like, you want to put all this work in, and it's a lot of work, and never go and do it. It was like cool,
and
it enhances someone's life.
Yeah, and employing a great teacher. I don't mean to blow smoke up your backside, Pat, but it stands for itself. What you've done, that's quite a commitment to make. For them to not. It's like no end game somehow, or no end goal. I don't know, but there you go.
It is. It's quite a weird thing to get used to. But actually, when you get used to it, it's very normal, because there's a lot of transferable skills. There's a lot of fun in taking things seriously without then having to go into an arena that maybe you just don't want to work in. And also, you and I both know there's a huge difference between wanting to play an instrument and wanting to play an instrument to a high level, and then having the skill set to actually be a working professional musician, and all of the risks that implies and that takes, and all of the plate spinning, and all of the kind of long journeys back in cars from in the early days, and all of that kind of stuff. So I think they're two very different things, and it's the minority that are able to fuse those things together, in my experience anyway.
Oh, and why not? Was education always going to be a big part of your journey for you, or was that? Did you slip into that?
It was completely accidental.
Really?
It was an accident. It was it was an opportunity. I was in a band. We were doing all right with a guy who's a very dear friend of mine called Howard Walmsley, and he was into teaching and really into it. And he put me forward just out of the blue for a couple of kind of mentoring type things with students of his. It was in the private sector, so it was a bit different.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it, and I was playing. We were doing stuff. We were publishing deals. We were doing things, and I then got invited to teach at BIMM in Brighton.
Yeah,
and this was in 2007, and I couldn't do it. I was too busy, and then I got invited the year after, 2008. Russell Gilbrook, who I'm sure you know,
yes,
Russia, had just landed the Uriah Heep gig 2 weeks before their term was about to start. this is my memory of it anyway. And I was able to take it on, and I took on a real, what I think is or thought was a tricky module, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I'd always been highly suspicious, and I don't mind saying it, of popular music education in general.
I don't think you've been on your own thinking that, but yeah.
I don't. No, and I know I haven't. And I just found, I was like, wow, I really, really enjoyed this. It's great working with these kids. There's some real passion here. There's some real hunger. There's some real, and then you start to realize how much experience you've gained over the years, and actually how much you've got to share. And from that point, that was when I then thought, right, I'm going to work just as hard on my teaching and learning as I have done on the drums up until this point, and I'm just going to see where it goes. And I was presented with some great opportunities for training, and just for kind of finding out more about it, and being able to work with people, and departmentally starting to run the drum department and things like that. And I just found I was able to marry the two things up, all of that professional experience I'd had with what was then becoming something quite exciting for me. So it was an accident, really.
But a happy accident, as they say.
It was a very, very happy accident. Yeah. It was an opportunity.
So were you head of drums straight away? Was that you went straight in as head of drums? No,
I just went in teaching a module, and then within I think by the second year I was head of the department, and in those days running the department, and
sure,
getting other people involved, and doing some magazine work by that time, in the kind of early iDrum days, that kind of stuff. And so the head of department opportunity came along a couple of years later, really. Actually, I got a deputy head of department role, and then the head of department role, and I thought, right, well, cool, I'm going to see what I can do with this. I'm going to see what I can do, see how good I can make it, see how good I can make the team, of tutors, that kind of stuff, and just really kind of get immersed in it a little bit.
Yeah. So when you're head of department, I guess the syllabus becomes your problem, does it? Do you devise the syllabus that they're going to study, or is it it's already there?
Well,
or
yeah, but by that point, so the place in Brighton had already had a fantastic head of department and drummer who'd moved into a different role, who was the guy that called me about the gig, a guy called Adam Bushell.
Oh yeah,
who'd already written, a phenomenal player, a great guy, and an amazing educator. So a lot of the syllabus at that point was already written.
Yeah.
But from that kind of point in 2010 to 2011, I then started taking responsibility for that and evolving it as the industry changed, as drumming's changed, as approaches and different kind of, I suppose, areas of teaching have kind of come to light as students have changed. Really took the ball and ran with it, actually, along with a guy called Preston Prince, who at the time who then became the deputy head of department, and it just gave it a whole new thing, really. It was great,
So something you enjoy, and is it easy to schedule? Is it does it have because this always fascinates me. Does it have a flexibility? So if you're on tour, you can kind of go, well, I can't do the next month and a half. Is that something you can do?
Back then more so than perhaps now. There still is that flexibility, because it's one of the things that's important, I think, in any kind of university setting is the people, the lecturers or whoever you're putting in front of students, including heads of departments or anything else, are practitioners, especially in music. Especially in music. There is still that flexibility. It's been a long time, but I've really enjoyed what I do. You change, everything changes, nothing stands still. There is that flexibility, but if someone said we've got a 3-month tour, I wouldn't be doing that for other reasons.
Yeah, of course.
Now, because there's other things that are going on, and there's family, and there's all that kind of stuff.
Interesting. And you seem to be somewhat of a staple on the Freddie G course as well. Which did you enjoy that? Because I've always wanted to go on that. And because it's in the summer holidays and I'm up to my eyes in courses myself and doing different summer schools and things, it's never going to happen, unfortunately. That looks like a fun, is it 5 days or something? I think
It's 5 days, yeah, with Freddie G, with the Freddie G Drum Academy. So that came about, I think, 3 years ago, minus COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what happened, but I got a call from George Frederick, who's an icon of the drum industry, and he's been running this for, along with Steve, along with Whitey and Craig, for nearly 25 years. So I think the recommendation came from Steve, but he called me up. I think there was 2 or 3 weeks to go, and he's like, "Do you want to come down and do a day?" And then I then slipped in, "Do you want to do like a clinic or something, or like a little performance on the Monday evening?" So I was like, "Yeah, it's great. Yeah, totally. Is that thing again? Yeah, yeah, yeah."
And then when it soaks in, what have I done?
Yeah, but I'm so glad I said yes. I had so much fun working with everyone, working with all the participants, doing that performance that first night as well, breaking some stuff down. It was a real roast, actually, a real roast, and then he asked me back to do the following year, and then for the last couple of years he's invited me back to do the whole week, along with Steve and Craig.
Yeah.
So the three of us do the whole week, and there's guest tutors that come in and do it, and I still do a performance on the Monday evening because it's good fun and everyone kind of enjoys it, or at least they have so far anyway. So yeah, man, it's a brilliant week. I couldn't recommend it enough. It's a real mixture of characters, real mixture of levels, mixture of ages, backgrounds. It's really, really cool. There's nothing like it actually at all.
No,
not in the UK anyway.
And I literally and honestly, since I don't know, for the last however many years, I've thought I'd love to do it, but it'll never work out,
Yeah, but it's that time of year, I think, as well, isn't it? There is the barbecue. There's the Wednesday barbecue. Yeah.
So unfortunately, Winchester's the wrong end of the country as well, just to nip down for the night.
Yeah.
Just Winchester, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
Slipping out for a barbecue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yeah. So but hey, one day, I live by those words. One day. But you mentioned the clinic. Had you done many or any clinics prior to that?
Yes. By that point, I had done a few. I did my first one. So my least favourite thing is playing drums in a room full of drummers.
My idea of hell is that. Oof.
However, if I park that up to one side, when you're actually in it and you're interacting, and I try and make them interactive, so it's not just me setting up a drum kit and woodshedding. The days of that are gone. People have to walk away with something.
Yes, totally agree.
They have to walk away with something that inspires them, or that they can just take and work in the practice room, or they can take and work on a gig, or try in a recording, or a bit of knowledge that they didn't have to start with. Those were always the best clinics for me when I was a kid, with the ones, if I walked away from something with someone had just been, it's like being in a pub with your mate who just shouts and talks at you for 3 hours. You've got no idea what they've said afterwards. Where, it's that conversational thing. It's interactive. It's
sure.
I try and get people working with me, and of course there's a bit of all of that stuff as well. But I try and bring the real life thing into it and approach it as a real kind of player educator, which I think is probably the most important thing with those with that type of event now. I think it's really important. So no, I'd done a few before then. I came to it late, really, in that kind of context. It was never something I was willing to do unless I felt like I was able to hold my own in that context and actually offer something unique within it all. Not like wildly different from anyone, but there's no point in doing what someone else does because they already do it.
Of course.
So that was my...
I'm so glad you said that. I put a lot of clinics on and masterclasses, and some almost blend into one, which is great. When you can get 100 people in a room, and the person presenting the masterclass is actually giving something. You can take this away, try this on your pads, try it on the table. I love that. And,
Yeah.
you generally see lots of smiling faces. On the other hand, you can get blinded by flashness, which is great for once the night's gone, it's gone, hasn't it? You're not taking
Yeah.
anything away apart from, wow, he's really good. I'm going
I
to go
mean,
home and
I
sell my
think
drums.
there's yeah, reevaluate my entire life.
Yeah,
I think there's got to be a bit of an element of that in it, but it's got to be in context. And for me, especially now, because really you can just sit on your computer and you can find pretty much anything
Sure.
you want by pretty much anyone you can think of. So there's got to be something special going on in the room. It's got to be really working, and I think you've got to be able to, education has moved on as well. So you've got to be able to work with the different levels of ability. You're going to have maybe some pros in the room. You could have a big name in the room that's just come down to check something out. You could have a 10-year-old kid that's never even picked up a pair of drumsticks before, and suddenly they've got a pad in front of them. So it's really just being able to work. I always just see it as a people thing. It's just being able to work with different people in that environment.
And I tell you what, if you can pull that off and cover all those bases, that's incredible. Because as far as playing a solo, that's never ever going to happen with me in a million years, because I don't have the ability. It just wouldn't happen. But even more so, trying to cover something that the pros would appreciate and beginners, that's just like, to me, is mind blowing. If you can do that, then wow, good
But
on
it's
you.
hard. You balance it up, and it's just, I think it's just practice. It's just patience. It's doing it. It's having the experience. It's working with people as well. It's I went I went back and I suppose restudied at one point with Bob
Oh yeah,
Armstrong,
yeah.
and spent kind of 5 or 6 years just getting my ass handed to me, really. But the whole point was to take myself, be able to take myself with someone like that to the next level.
Sure.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have got there on my own. I've always worked better with people, so that was the kind of turning point, really, in going from one thing to another, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So the education plays a big part of your life, but that aside, you are a gigging, touring drummer as well, and Ozric Tentacles. Now, that's a fun gig, an interesting gig. There's no vocals in this; it's an instrumental. And this fascinates me. How was it to learn the stuff? I mean, I find stuff with vocals reasonably easy to learn because you've got something to latch on to. Instrumental stuff, not so much. How tell us about the gig? I mean,
so I totally understand what you're saying there. In so much as there's, when there's a vocal involved, there's a certain adherence to certain formulas and structures. There kind of has to be, unless it's like, really avant-garde kind of progressive stuff.
Yeah.
Even then, there has to be something for a vocal to work over. With Ozric Tentacles, I mean, I was so familiar with their music anyway.
Oh wow, okay.
So they were one of my favourite bands growing up, and as a kid, not even as a kid, but like as a teenager, all the way through. I've never stopped listening to Ozric Tentacles. So I was really familiar with their style, with the way they formulate, write the music, write the parts, how the music kind of ebbs and flows, what's tricky, what's not, what's what and what's what, basically. And one of the things that I always loved about them was that they had all of this different stuff going on. It was peppered with all these different shades and colours. But I suppose Merv Pepler, who was their drummer in maybe their most prolific period at one point in time, was this kind of strange combination of kind of creative banshee with some real technical wizardry meets punk.
Yeah.
So there was this real kind of weird thing going on, which I always just found fascinating in his playing, quite Keith Moon-esque in places, but with a bit more discipline. So I always found it fascinating. So in terms of learning the music, it's very different being a fan of the music and playing along to records, and then actually going, oh no, hang on, you're actually playing with the artist now, with the band. This is a whole nother thing. What? So I was all of that stuff I was very, very familiar with. So what I had to turn my hat to was my interpretations. How are they going to work in the band room when we get together for a rehearsal before this tour? How's this going to work? So yeah, that's kind of how that works.
So was it would you say kind of a dream gig for you then, really, this, if you've liked them for been a fan since, well, let's be honest, they've been going since what, was it early 80s?
80s, yeah 80s. And I suppose I kind of discovered them in the kind of early 90s, early to mid 90s. Oh yeah, totally dream gig. I don't know that it happens to everyone.
Probably not.
And the weirdest thing was, I had no idea they were looking for a drummer. There was some kind of there was some common threads, people I'd played with that were kind of in their camp, and some other bits. And I'll tie it back to a clinic in a minute. But I just got I got a message from out of the blue that just said, I think they want you to be their new drummer. And it was from someone I didn't know, but I'd had a bit of contact from him, and I was just like, this guy's like on another planet, man.
On drugs.
Like that's going to happen. And then literally the next day I got a text from them saying, we've been checking out some stuff. We'd love you to do this tour with us. And this was in July, I think, June or July last year.
It's fairly recently, isn't it? Yeah.
It was only last year, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a real kind of, there was a lot of things happening at the time as well. And bizarrely, it came from one of the first clinics I did. iDrum, just to pile on the pressure, iDrum magazine came down to film it.
Oh, God. Right.
Yeah. It was with Luke Flowers as well.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah, right. So it was like, right. So it's with Luke Flowers, and iDrum magazine are coming down to film it. So there's a rewind button. So like, okay. And I built into this piece that I sometimes perform, this big styles piece, to talk about the importance of like things like versatility and just being able to say yes to things, basically, and authenticity. There was some Ozrics. There was an Ozric tune that I'd just re-recorded to put in there and talk about. Because any opportunity I would get, I would always talk about Ozric Tentacles. Like, you've got to listen to this band, just listen to them. You'll thank me for it. I'd put that clip up years ago and just totally forgotten about it. And they'd found that clip, which was how they ended up getting in touch with me. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's like a real kind of, that was back in 2011, I think.
The saying, you make your own luck. That is the perfect example, isn't it? You make your own luck in this world by putting that out.
Yeah.
You've opened the door.
Absolutely. And luck is something that you hear about and talk about quite a lot with, especially in like, with other musicians at airports or backstage at festivals and things like that, or in education. It really mirrors the whole thing. And people talk about it positively and they talk about it negatively. I've just never had the luck. I've just never had the lucky break, or that was lucky, wasn't it, or whatever. And I can't remember who it was that said this, but they said that luck is really just preparation meeting opportunity.
Yeah, and isn't that true? Yeah.
It really is, because any one of these things could happen to any of us. And the fact is, if you haven't done the work beforehand, it's not, it's just not going to fly. Or if you're not a nice person, or, if people can't just get on with you, there's all these little factors involved. So that's kind of, my thing with luck. I really can't remember who said that, but it really resonated with me when I heard it.
Absolutely, yeah. But that's a prime example of, what you just told us there. I think that's really, I like hearing stuff like that, when you've opened the door to it yourself by, I think it's great.
Yeah. And it is, you're right. It is a really, really, I mean, it's a drummer's gig.
Mm.
That one. It's a drummer's gig. It's a proper play. It's 120%. There's a lot of moving parts. It's just full on, but it's very delicate. It's also, it's very sensitive. It ebbs and flows. So as well as that, it's a proper play on all levels. I mean,
But dynamically, it's insane, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. Yeah, yeah. It's like,
which is great.
It's like turbo to like, you could hear a pin drop, and it's so much fun. And Ed Wynn, creative founder of Ozric Tentacles and guitarist, is such a phenomenally creative guy, and to just be able to work with someone like that is just fantastic. It's it's the real deal. It's dialed into the source.
Sure.
Yeah.
So did you, once you got into the rehearsal room, were you able to add some Pat Garvey into there, did you get like a free-ish rein, if you like, to do your thing, or did you have to be pretty accurate to the originals?
So that's a really, really good question. And I've learnt the answer to this a few times over the years, and it's slightly different with anyone that's ever said this to me. So one of the things that was said to me was I think it's going to take on a real different form with your drumming, and for me that was just a massive compliment. And so on one hand, it was like, let's do your interpretation of it. On the other hand, I'm a massive fan, so it was like I'm perfectly happy to play these parts like note by note.
Yeah.
But it was really great to be able to be given a bit of carte blanche and just say, cool, you do your thing. But there's another thing. When artists say that to you, and I'm not talking about the Ozric Tentacles specifically, when they say do your thing with it, what they're not saying is just go mental and recreate and rewrite all the drum parts, play completely different drum fills, and just push the envelope of drumming for the next kind of 500 years. That's not what they're saying.
Yeah.
They said it kind of before we'd even actually gotten in a rehearsal room. There's other, like David Cross, who I played with for about 3 years, who was the violinist in King Crimson. I took over his gig from Craig Blundell when he got the Steve Wilson gig and was starting to get really busy with that. And the first show with David was a TV show. And so it was really, really learning the parts and note for note, and it's Bill Bruford's parts and Craig's parts, and it's like cool. So get your thinking hat on, and we'd done it after a couple of shows. He then called me up and said, "Listen, what you're doing is great. Please feel free to do you now."
Wow, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, which was really lovely. And it's not every day that an artist will say that, or in some instances even care.
Yeah.
Actually, it's just the song or whatever it is. But one of my MOs has always been to play music that I enjoy.
Yeah.
If I possibly can.
Yeah.
Or play with people I really love playing with.
Yeah. But how nice that they've recognized the that you've kind of played it as the people before played it. You've had the respect to do that, and then said, "Okay, let's just do it." I think that's really nice, And I suppose it's going to be interesting for them as well. Let's see how it's going to change. Obviously, you're not going to change the whole feel of the thing. It'd be a different song, but yeah. And is it different when you've not got vocals to play underneath? You know what I mean? You don't have to kind of respect the singer.
No, because you still have to respect whatever the main feature of that piece of music is. So if we strip away the words like songs and everything else and think of something as just a piece of music, then and this goes back to what we were saying earlier, actually, the same rules apply to any kind of melody, shape or form in music. The basic rules of engagement still follow, and certainly with Ozric Tentacles, there's more melody than you could shake a singer at in terms of
see what you did there.
Yeah, you see that with with the form of the music. So no, it's not because, and also you've still got the same, basic kind of structural sensibilities that make a piece of music work, like repetition, for example.
Absolutely. And so it is Ozric Tentacles, is that, I know it's a difficult question to ask, is that an ongoing thing currently for you? Are you the drummer?
Yeah.
Here forward for now anyway. Who knows? You never know, do you? This is
You
funny
never know.
game.
You never know. Yes, yeah. So it was really nice. They asked me to do the tour with them, and then when we got I think about 10, 11 dates in, they asked if I'd like to take the gig on, be the drummer if you like, and I just said yeah, absolutely. I'm in. Let's do it.
Wow.
And that was a really, again, just really nice moments. If things changed tomorrow, I would still be able to kind of, reflect on that and have had that opportunity. And, when the opportunity came up, I said to my wife, I was like, because she's into the Ozric Tentacles as well. And I was like, you're never going to guess what's just happened. And she was like, well, probably not. Just tell me. So, and she was like, you're joking. I was like, I'm not joking at all. But is it, can I really, she was like, you got to do it. You can't even think about not doing it.
Yeah.
And I was just immediately bang. Yes.
It's nice just to get that sort of second opinion, isn't it? Sometimes, it gives you kind of a wake up, if you like. If you got any doubt, do you think you're serious? Just do it. That's great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
How does that feel when you get the call or the message to say, we want you to do this? Because I can't imagine. I've never done anything big enough to get excited about like that. Apologies to anyone I've ever played with. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of pinch yourself moments, really.
Yeah.
They're pinch yourself moments. They're the moments, I suppose, when you're a kid, you're like, I'd love to get a call from Maiden or from like Slayer or from whatever, whoever, Prince or whatever that is. It's like, you have these things and, you say them because it's ridiculous. But in that moment, but, I used to say it's quite common to be asked when you're in drumming circles or with students or whatever, what would be your dream gig if it came up? And I'd always say Ozric Tentacles, and a lot of people go, who? I'll go, well, just have a listen. Yeah. So it's very special. Like it was with David Cross as well. He was a King Crimson. The whole thing was a major kind of influence, I suppose, in one way or another. And so those kind of things they're important to me anyway. Are you
a prog fan, would you say? And I know they're not strictly progressive rock, but there's an element of it, isn't there?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I like playing it. I really enjoy playing it. I love the the creative opportunity you get on an instrument like the drum kit within that form of music. Listening to it, I love listening to it sometimes. And then I have to put something on with just a melody that just is like 12-bar blues or something, just to cleanse my ears. And so it's one of those things. I've always loved progressive forms of music. Hip hop is a progressive form of music. It didn't exist. There was nothing like it until those guys started doing that.
Sure.
And same with jazz, same with all of these kind of things. So I've always loved progressive music. I've always loved the freedom, the artistry in it. But listening to it is sometimes it's a different thing. You have to be in the mood.
Yeah, and I get that. And I think that could be said for any music. You've got to be in the right mood for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's it. We all got into music because we loved it and because we have an emotional reaction or an emotional experience with it, or it makes us feel good, or it makes us feel whatever. So it's always linked.
Well, today I've gone from Oscar Peterson to Devin Townsend, so you couldn't get
some of that.
You couldn't get further apart, really, could you? So that's
no, you couldn't. No,
it's a healthy mix, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
And did your kit After, did you change much on the drums to go out with Ozric's, or did it stay as it is, or were you adding all sorts of bits and pieces? And
So the only thing I added, well, actually no, it's pretty much exactly what. So if I change, this should work. Boom, there we go. Look at that.
oh, lovely. So there's a
Yeah.
fair
So
few bits and bobs anyway, isn't there?
yeah. So there's 16, 14, 12, 10, 8 snare. You know, a bunch of cymbals here,
Sure.
but nothing kind of overkill. A second set of hats, and then the only thing that I would add. So that's the setup I have set up in my studio
Oh.
all the time,
Mhm.
and I have that set up in the studio because I can do any recording for anybody that might come through, from a pops tune to you know, an Ozric Tentacles track,
Sure.
through to an advert that's jazz. I don't know, you know, without kind of changing anything. And it's the setup that I really just enjoy. I just enjoy having all the colours of the cymbals, the tones of the drums. So the only thing I added for Ozric Tentacles was a side snare, so a little 12-inch, and 2 timbale, so that I could recreate some of the melodic timbale stuff and percussion stuff that they have on those recordings.
Wow, amazing stuff. So, have you got many festivals in this summer then? Because I'm sure it's kind of peak time for festivals now, isn't it?
Yeah. There's been a few. The next one now, there's a little break until the 30th, I think, of July. Actually, there's a bit of a break.
Yeah.
We're off to Azora in Hungary, and then there's a couple more towards the end of August, and then in September, I think September the 18th, we're off to Europe for 13 days.
Wow.
And and then, you know, that takes us to October, and then just towards mid-November we're doing a co-headline UK tour with the Orb.
Oh wow, well, that's a good marry up, that, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think they used to, you know, play together quite a lot back in the day. So yeah, we're doing quite a lot of the venues we did on these last couple of tours in November last year and March, that we did with Gong, band called Gong.
Yeah.
So so it's, you know, it's busy without being like over the top.
Yeah. So sounds like you've got a good healthy mix of the education and the playing, and you know, it sounds like you're pretty happy with it all, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I suppose I am. Yeah, again, you know, to get anything takes a lot of work, and then to keep it takes a lot of work. And you know, you know what it's like. We're always having to evolve things and change things and tweak things kind of here and there. But yeah, there's a good balance. I've always had to have I've always had to have a creative outlet. For drums, I always, you know, like any of us, started playing drums because I just love playing drums. Yeah.
There's nothing else to say, is there? Really, that's it. You know, and I'd like to think that that's the reason, because we all start because it's like,
yeah. Well, it's not. Why would you put yourself through that? You know, or like, you know, it's you simply wouldn't. And it's, the fact is, it's so much fun. That it's, you know, those are the reasons. And so that can also flip on its head a little bit, because if you're not having fun with an instrument like this, then, you know, that can kind of flip the balance a little bit. And I mean, it's like anything though, isn't it? When something becomes a job, it's not the same as it being a hobby.
Absolutely
Not at all. You have to be able to wear a different hat, and that's actually the hat that can fox a few people as well when they think they want to kind of get into it. So yeah, it's a good balance at the moment.
Good. And the thing is with drums, and it's been said many times, and there's a lot of truth to it. It's like a family, isn't it? You know, the clinics, the master classes, the drum camps, you know, George's, you know, the Freddie G Academy thing. I've done 100 and this may be 140. This one now, I haven't worked it out yet. Obviously, we're recording it before it goes out, and people say, "Have you ever spoken to anybody who's been difficult or not very nice?" And genuinely, 100%, I can say no. Everyone has been, you know, perfectly lovely. And we've spoken before, we've spoken after, and it's been great. And I'm sure there are drummers out there who have an attitude, but I haven't found one yet. I'll be honest. I really haven't.
And there are, but you tend not, they tend to not get much further than that, and because it's a people's business, isn't it? It's
of course
just,
it is.
we're all just doing this, and drummers will hang out together, they will chat, they will kind of show each other's different sticking patterns, or talk about this or talk about that, and just have a kind of easy, fun, cool time. It's not the same as certainly not the same
other
as
instruments,
a bunch of singers
oh God.
getting together, or whatever else, and so it's I think it's just one of those things. Also, we understand each other's pain, because it's not everyone that's loading in and out of venues when you're first starting with loads of gear and traps cases and all of that stuff. It's I think we're a very strong, very understanding, very cool little community, and it is, like you said, it's a small world actually.
Very. And you know what? I think that's a good place to wrap this up. So, Pat, thank you very much, mate. Honestly, I've had a fabulous hour chatting to you now.
So have I, mate. Thank you very much.
No, I really appreciate it. Well, hopefully, I'll try and catch you in November, maybe somewhere if you're anywhere within an hour or two from here. It'd be nice to.
Yeah, do, man. I'll buzz you the dates. And,
that'd be nice to come and see it live. Come and witness it.
Man.
I promise not to sing along with. Oh, there's no word. What a treat! Thanks, Pat. Brilliant. I really appreciate it, mate. See you soon.
You're welcome, mate. You take care.
Take care. Bye bye.